Our perceptual system. Your brain is constantly playing tricks on you, and color illusions prove it. These aren't just fun visual puzzles. They're windows into how your brain actually constructs your experience of color. What these illusions reveal is that your perception of color isn't a simple recording of wavelengths hitting your eyes. It's an active, complex construction that your brain creates based on multiple factors. Some of the most powerful color illusions show how context dramatically changes what color you perceive. Look at two identical gray squares placed in different surroundings, one surrounded by dark colors and one by light colors. Even though they reflect exactly the same wavelengths to your eye, the square surrounded by dark colors will appear lighter than the identical square surrounded by light colors. Your brain responds to the relationship between the square and its surroundings rather than the absolute amount of light. The famous checker shadow illusion created by Professor Edward Adelson of MIT demonstrates this principle perfectly. In this illusion, two squares on a checkerboard, one in shadow and one in light, appear to be different shades of gray. But when you measure the actual light reflected from each square, they're identical. Your brain compensates for the shadow automatically without your conscious control. Why does your brain do this? Because it's trying to determine the true properties of objects regardless of lighting conditions. In the real world, a white object in shadow and a black object in bright light might reflect the same amount of light to your eye. Your visual system has evolved to discount these lighting variations so you can recognize objects consistently. This phenomenon, called color constancy, is crucial for navigating the world, but leads to fascinating perceptual errors in certain situations. Color constancy explains why the viral dress appeared blue or black to some people and white or gold to others. Your brain made different assumptions about the lighting conditions in the photo. Those who saw a blue dress in yellow light perceived it as white and gold, compensating for yellow light by adding blue. Those who saw a white gold dress in blue shadow perceived it as blue and black, compensating for blue shadow by adding yellow. Neither group was wrong. They were simply making different unconscious assumptions about lighting. Prepare to see your perception transform before your eyes. Stare at a brightly colored image for about 30 seconds, then look at a white surface. What happens next will change how you understand your visual system. A ghost image appears in the complementary color. Red produces green. Blue creates yellow. This happens because the cone cells detecting the original color become fatigued. When you shift to white, which contains all wavelengths, the unfatigued cones respond more strongly, creating the perception of the complementary color. As one research source explains, the cones can get fatigued if you stare at a brightly colored image for too long, and the cones will stop responding. When the image changes to white, the ghosted stripes on the white card look red. This is because the cones that detect the color red are still ready to fire, while the cones that detect the other colors are tired. Memory and expectation also influence how you perceive color. Show someone a slightly ambiguous color that could be either brown or purple on an object strongly associated with one of those colors, like a banana or an eggplant, and their brain will push perception toward the expected color. Knowledge about typical object colors influences what we actually see. The Bayes-Alt effect further demonstrates how dramatically adjacent colors affect perception. The same red square appears entirely different when surrounded by yellow versus when surrounded by blue. Similarly, the color context illusion shows how surrounding colors can make identical gray eyes appear to be different colors. Your visual system processes colors through comparison, not isolation. These illusions reveal fundamental truths about vision. Your perception of color depends on the surrounding colors creating contrast effects. Your brain's assumptions about lighting conditions, the history of recent stimulation of your visual system, your memories and expectations about typical object colors, the overall context of the scene. The implication is profound. Color isn't a fixed property of the world that your brain passively records. It's a construction your brain creates to help you make sense of your environment. Different brains, given the same visual input, can construct different color experiences. The colors you see aren't properties of objects, but interpretations your brain creates based on complex calculations. This explains why two people can look at the same object and genuinely see different colors. Their brains might make different. Assumptions have different prior experiences or process visual information slightly differently. Neither person is wrong. They're experiencing their own valid interpretation of the physical stimulus. What optical illusions reveal about the subjective nature of color is that context fundamentally influences what colors you perceive. Your visual system constructs colors based on multiple factors beyond just wavelengths. The color you see is your brain's best guess about what's out there, not a direct recording of physical reality. Even when we know about an illusion, even when we measure identical wavelengths from patches that look different, we cannot force ourselves to see them as the same. The construction of color happens at levels of neural processing below conscious control, revealing how our experience of reality is shaped by mechanisms we cannot directly access.